AITA for calling off our engagement after my fiancée laughed at my proposal in front of her friends? I said, "You are absolutely right." And I walked out of the restaurant. I went back home. I packed all my things while she was still out with them. When she arrived, she found the apartment empty and a message on her phone. Imagine believing I would stay. A week later, she showed up crying at the door of my apartment. The little ring box felt like it weighed a ton in my pocket. My heart wasn't just beating. It was racing, like a frenetic drum solo against my chest, full of hope. I had planned this for months, saved up to buy the ring she had casually pointed out in a display case at the mall. I chose that restaurant, Celadon, because it was where we had our first real date. I even coordinated with the server to bring a bottle of her favorite champagne at just the right moment. And the right moment was now. Across the table, Brielle dominated the conversation. Her laughter sounded like sharp, shiny bells as she told stories about how she had humiliated an intern at the marketing firm where she worked. Her two best friends, Tessa and Asha, followed every expression, every gesture. A perfectly synchronized audience of two. I took a deep breath. It was time. The restaurant noise faded into a distant murmur. "Brielle," I said, relieved to hear my voice come out steady. She paused mid-sip of her cosmopolitan and arched a perfectly lined eyebrow. "What is it, babe? You have a weird look on your face." Tessa let out a little giggle. I simply stood up from my chair, which scraped slightly against the hardwood floor. I walked around to her side. The three of them looked at me, Tessa and Asha with curious smiles. Brielle's was more of a mocking smirk. I knelt down. The cold floor cut through the fabric of my dress slacks like a shock. I pulled the small box from my pocket with fingers that suddenly refused to obey. Click. The lid opened. The diamond reflected the soft, recessed lighting. For an instant, I saw my own face in it. Hopeful and terrified. "Brielle Whitman," I began, and the rehearsed words flowed on their own. "For 3 years, you have been the most intense and exciting part of my life. You make every day unpredictable." And oh my God, it wasn't a sigh of joy, it was pure shock. The mocking smile froze, then trembled. Her hand flew to her mouth, not to hold back tears, but to hide the laughter that was already escaping. Her eyes darted from the ring to Tessa, then to Asha. A loud, hollow laugh rang out. "Are you serious?" Her voice rose loud enough for the couple at the next table to look over. The frenetic solo in my chest turned into an irregular, sickly thud. "Of course I'm serious. I love you. I want to spend my life with you." She lowered her hand, revealing a full, cruel smile. She leaned back in her chair, physically distancing herself from the proposal. She turned to Tessa with wide, exaggerated eyes. "Can you believe this?" she said loudly, as if narrating an event on a reality show. It wasn't addressed to me, it was a commentary. She shook her head. "Ethan, how delusional." The word hit me like a slap. Delusional. Asha looked away, clearly uncomfortable. Tessa, on the contrary, leaned in, savoring the moment. Brielle turned her gaze back to me, but it wasn't the look of someone seeing a partner. It was the look you give a slow server who brought the wrong wine. "Imagine," she said slowly, enunciating every word, believing that I would actually marry him. She said him, as if it were a synonym for trash. "Brielle," I tried to say, but she cut me off with a gesture. "No, listen, it's cute, really," she smiled. "That whole stable engineer, Sunday barbecue vibe. Security is nice, babe. Seriously." She tilted her head. "But marriage? With you, my life would be completely settled. I'd be bored by 30. I'm made for sparkle, for experiences, not for this." She made a vague gesture in my direction. I was still kneeling. The ring box now seemed like a dangerous object in my hand. Humiliation crept up my neck, burning my ears. I saw the pity in Asha's eyes. I saw the chronic pleasure in Tessa's. I saw other customers pretending not to look. But above all, I saw Brielle, not the woman I loved, but a stranger exhibiting cruelty to win approval. The cold from the floor seemed to enter my bloodstream. My heart didn't break dramatically. It was a silent internal explosion whose fragments froze immediately, sharp and clear. All the fog of love evaporated in the heat of her mockery, leaving only a hard, undeniable truth. I moved slowly, carefully. The frenetic beating of my heart had vanished. In its place was a deep, almost deafening silence. I closed the ring box. The click of the lid was the loudest sound in the world. I stood up slowly. My joints felt old, heavy. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out my wallet, and calculated my share of the appetizers and drinks. I added a generous tip to make up for the scene that had just occurred and placed the cash on the table next to her bread plate, which was untouched. "You are absolutely right," I said. My voice came out calm, flat, without any emotion. It didn't even sound like mine. My mistake. I didn't look at Tessa or Asha. I didn't look at the other tables, and I definitely didn't look at Brielle, whose theatrical smile was finally beginning to crumble into confusion. I turned and walked toward the exit. I didn't storm out. I didn't run. I walked with the firm, determined stride of someone who had just received a map to escape a prison he didn't even know existed. I heard a chorus of gasps behind me, but it wasn't a call of love or regret. It was the sound of an artist whose favorite prop had just walked off the stage. I pushed open the heavy restaurant door and was greeted by the cold night air. The internal silence was over. In its place, a single clear command emerged, resonating in the empty space where a heart used to be: go home. Erase yourself. I made the drive home in complete silence. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just drove through the familiar city streets, my mind working with terrifying, almost surgical clarity. The emotional pain was there, immense, like a dark ocean ready to swallow me. But for now, I remained upright, supported by a single command: move. Our apartment was in a modern downtown building, chosen by her for the aesthetic. I paid 70% of the rent. I had hung the pictures, assembled the furniture, unclogged the shower drain. It had felt like the building of a home. Now, it was just an address containing my things. I changed out of my proposal dress pants into jeans and a t-shirt. Work clothes. This was a job. I started in the living room. My books, organized with care on the shelves we assembled together. I didn't read the titles. I just put them in boxes. My records, the old turntable I had saved so much for, into a separate box, well protected with bubble wrap. I was a surgeon. These were my instruments. I felt nothing. I went to the bedroom, took my clothes, my shoes, the winter gear from the back of the walk-in closet. I left the ridiculous cashmere sweater she gave me for my last birthday, the one that itched and I never wore. I left everything that carried the scent of us. From the nightstand, I took my grandfather's watch, my passport, the folder with the car documents and insurance. I left our photo on the beach, my smile there now looking like that of an idiot. The only hesitation occurred in the corner that served as an office, really just a part of the second bedroom. There, inside a fireproof safe, was the concrete proof of my delusion. The receipts for the ring, brochures for a lake house I had been quietly researching for a future summer, the list of possible honeymoon destinations I had started on my phone and then printed out. I didn't open the safe. I put the whole thing inside a larger box. I would burn it later. The physical labor helped keep my feet on the ground. Tape ripping, boxes closing, the dry sound of stacks forming. I was a ghost carefully erasing his own tracks. I took my good kitchen knives, the ones I used to prepare the meals she posted on Instagram. I left the exaggerated nonstick pans she bought just because she thought they looked cute. I took my toolbox. I left the furniture. It was all contaminated. The set of a play that had ended definitively. 3 hours. That was the time needed to reduce my life in that space to an organized stack of boxes and 2 suitcases near the door. The apartment looked strange, unbalanced, emptier, but not completely, like a museum after a poorly planned robbery. I did a final check. Bathroom, razor, toothbrush, the expensive cologne she claimed to love. I left the matching towels. I sat on the high stool at the kitchen island, where I had so often drunk coffee alone while she slept. I picked up my phone. Her contact photo, laughing, head thrown back, seemed to look at me. I didn't block her yet. I didn't write a single sentence. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was just a simple, factual echo. The last nail in the coffin she herself had built. Imagine believing I would stay. I sent the message and saw the delivery notification. Only then did I go to settings, block the number, and open every social network. It wasn't an act of fury. It was a digital security protocol, the severing of a compromised line. I hired a cargo van through an app. The driver asked no questions. In 10 silent minutes, we loaded my life into the back of the vehicle. When I left in my own car, the van following behind me, I didn't look back at the building. I was already gone. My best friend Connor opened the door at 11:30 p.m. holding a lit baby monitor. He looked at my face, the headlights of the van parked behind me in the driveway, the stacked boxes, and just stepped aside. The guest room is free. I put the baby to sleep an hour ago, so tread lightly. No questions. That is what real friendship does. The dam broke around 2 a.m. In the silent, strange darkness of Connor's guest room, the ocean of pain finally crashed over the wall of adrenaline and clarity. It was a silent and violent storm. Hands shaking, chest tight, the hot, shameful tears of a man discarded in public, soaking a borrowed pillow. I let it happen. I didn't fight it. I owed myself that single night of raw, absolute devastation. When Connor's wife, Madison, brought me coffee the next morning, her eyes were soft, full of compassion. "She's an idiot, Ethan," she said simply, placing a hand on my shoulder. "A cruel, superficial idiot." I nodded, feeling the void return. The pain was still there, but the clarity had also returned, colder now. "I know. I just didn't see it before." "Did you see what you wanted to see?" Connor murmured, entering the kitchen. "She showed you who she is in high definition." "Believe it." I believed it. The following week, I functioned in operation mode. I called the landlord, explained the situation directly, without emotion. I paid a heavy lease break fee to terminate my obligation. I transferred my share of the penalty via bank transfer and mailed the receipt with instructions to pass it on to the remaining tenant. My legal obligations were closed. I didn't check her social media. I muted or unfollowed anyone who was primarily her friend. Even so, the world is small, and information always finds a crack. A mutual, neutral friend, Owen, sent a message 3 days later. "Bro, heard crazy things. You okay?" "I'm fine. Thanks for asking." "She's saying you had a psychotic break and abandoned everything, but my cousin's girlfriend was at Celadon that night. 2 tables away. The story she told is different." I imagine. "Just so you know, that narrative isn't sticking. People are talking about her." I didn't reply. I didn't need the narrative to stick. I just needed it not to touch me. A few days later, mindlessly scrolling through Connor's Instagram feed, I had deleted my own apps. I saw a post from a guy I vaguely knew. A group photo at a rooftop bar, and there, right in the center, was Brielle, clinging to the arm of a guy named Dylan. The Dylan who worked in brand partnerships, known at the gym for his neon sneakers and for talking constantly about his side projects. In the photo, Brielle's smile was too wide, her eyes shining with an almost desperate energy. The caption read, "Impeccable vibes with the crew, Sparks, living life." The vehicle of karma had arrived, shiny, hollow, and exactly on schedule. It was on the 7th day, while finalizing the lease for a small, clean, 1-bedroom apartment, that I made a tactical error. I needed to unblock her number for 5 minutes to authorize the final transfer of a security deposit from our old joint account. The block was suspended for maybe 90 seconds when my phone vibrated. It wasn't a text, a voicemail notification. My thumb hovered over the screen. The first crumb, the first tug on the line. I pressed play and put it on speaker, leaning back in the hard chair at the leasing office. Her voice filled the small, sterile office. It was shaky, thin, charged with a confusion bordering on anger. There was no crying. Not yet. "Ethan. Hello. Yes, it's Brielle. This is crazy. You need to come pick up the rest of your things. I'm not your storage unit. You can't just leave. We need to talk about the lease. The landlord is being weird. Call me." This is very immature. The tone was impeccable. No apology, no acknowledgement of her role, just indignant confusion. As if I had taken the consequences too seriously. As if I weren't there to manage the damage. A slow, cold smile appeared on my face for the first time in a week. It held no warmth. It was the smile of a chess player seeing an opponent's doomed opening move. I deleted the voicemail and blocked the number again. I signed the lease for my new apartment. The silence on my end was no longer just the absence of sound. It was a weapon, and she was starting to feel the blade. The silence became my refuge. In my new apartment, a compact, sunlit box with white walls and the smell of fresh paint, I began the silent work of rebuilding a man. Not for revenge, not to prove anything to her, but because who I was had been dismantled in a restaurant, and I needed to build something new with the pieces. I started going to the gym at 6 a.m., not to get ripped, but for the simple, brutal logic of it. Lift a weight, put it down, repeat. The progress was measurable. I found a therapist, a practical woman named Dr. Vincent. In her calm office, I didn't just talk about Brielle. I talked about why I confused applause with love, why I conflated being useful with being valued. Work became a sanctuary. I immersed myself in structural analyses and project schedules, things that obey the laws of physics and mathematics, not the chaotic whims of an artist seeking an audience. I reconnected with friends from before Brielle, the guy she called boring. We went to simple sports bars, talked about football and carpentry, and no one analyzed the other's tone of voice looking for hidden meaning. I bought a single comfortable armchair and placed it near the window. On Saturday mornings, I sat there with a coffee, listening to the city wake up, feeling something so strange it took me weeks to identify. Peace. On the other side of the silence, however, a war was waging. Attempt 1, the logical attack. A text from an unknown number. Ethan, it's Brielle. We need to act like adults. The landlord is threatening action for breach of contract. You are legally responsible for half the fine. I have the paperwork. Let's meet and resolve this like rational people. This silence is childish. I stared at the screen. The audacity was almost impressive. The legal action was for the very fee I had already paid, the receipt for which I had mailed. Either she was lying, or she hadn't even bothered to check her mailbox, too busy with her own drama. I didn't argue. I opened my bank app, found the transfer for the lease break, took a screenshot, and sent it to the same number with the caption, paid. April 12th. See attached. Then I blocked the number. Attempt 2, the emotional probe. A call. Late at night. Another new number. I answered on the third ring without saying anything. Ethan. Her voice was hoarse, teary. The show had changed genres. From comedy to drama. It's me. I remained silent. I saw the screenshot. I hadn't seen the mail. Things are so. She inhaled. Dylan. The guy I was seeing. He's nothing like you. He asked to borrow $500 for an unmissable opportunity and just disappeared. My friends are acting weird. Tessa said maybe I overreacted. I heard the careful construction of every sentence, the testing of the terrain. She was offering a piece of guilt to see if I would bite. The silence I maintained forced her to continue. I miss our routine. Coming home and finding you already making dinner. Knowing the bills were taken care of. It was stable. The word she had spat out as an insult now emerged as nostalgic praise. Can't we just talk? Coffee, no expectations? I think I made a terrible mistake. The request hung in the air. The old me would have caved. The old me would have heard a damsel in distress. The current me heard a consumer returning a product. She had found the replacement defective and wanted to know if the warranty was still valid. I've already removed my things and settled the lease, I replied calmly. A smooth surface, no ripples. There is nothing to discuss. Ethan, please. I hung up. I blocked the number. I felt nothing but a slight annoyance, like accidentally touching something sticky. Karma didn't come like a thunderclap. It came like a slow, public dismantling. I found out through Owen, who heard from his cousin's girlfriend, who saw it all on social media. Dylan, the vibes guy, hadn't just ghosted Brielle. He was dating 3 women at the same time. They all found out through a sequence of compromising Instagram stories. The chaos exploded in the comments of a post of his, with furious, typo-ridden replies from Brielle being screenshot and shared by her social circle. The impeccable vibes turned into a toxic spill. The performative cruelty she had displayed at my expense was now being re-evaluated in the light of her own public humiliation. The narrative had flipped completely. That, apparently, was the breaking point. Attempt 3, the arrival with rage and desperation at my door. I was making a simple pasta with garlic and olive oil. The building intercom buzzed. I wasn't expecting anyone. I pressed the button. Hello. Ethan. It's me. Open up. The voice was harsh, stripped of any theatrics. It wasn't a request, it was an order. I didn't answer and released the button. A minute later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The intercom buzzed again, a long, insistent sound. I sighed and went down, not to let her in, but to end this. I opened the inner lobby door. She was on the other side of the safety glass, a shadow of the woman from the restaurant. Her hair in a messy bun, eyes puffy and red. She wore yoga pants and a stained hoodie. She looked small, fragile. Upon seeing me, she pressed her hands against the glass. Open the door, Ethan. We need to talk. Now. I didn't open it. I stayed inside, arms crossed. Say what you need to say. Let me in, she hissed, her voice cracking. You have to let me in. Look what you did. You left and destroyed everything. I remained silent, just watching. You left me with a whole rent. With the bills. Dylan drained my Venmo. My friends won't answer anymore. Tessa said I create drama. The words came out tumbling over each other, an avalanche of consequences thrown at me as if I were the sole culprit. This is your fault. If you hadn't made that scene at the restaurant, none of this would have happened. That was when I spoke for the first time. My voice came out low, firm. I proposed to you. You said no. That is all that happened. You humiliated me, she screamed, her fists now pounding the glass. You put me against the wall. What did you expect me to do? You should have said no, I replied. The simplicity of the sentence hung in the air. It didn't need a speech. She stared at me, her chest heaving. The victim role was beginning to crack, worn down by my irritating calm. What lay beneath, the true foundation of her character, was starting to show. You were never enough, she spat, the mask finally falling to reveal the aggressive face underneath. You were just a placeholder, a comfortable couch, while I waited for something better. I was doing you a favor by staying with you. You're a boring little man, predictable, and you're going to die alone, cold, and miserable. There it was. The raw, ugly, definitive truth. I didn't blink. On the contrary, I felt something strange. Gratitude. She had just confirmed, in no uncertain terms, that every drop of pain had been worth it for that instant of absolute clarity. I nodded once. Slowly. Okay. Then I turned and started up the stairs. Ethan, she screamed, the sound muffled by the glass. Ethan, get back here. I didn't look back. I went up to my silent apartment, to the smell of garlic browning in hot oil, to my single chair by the window. I put the pasta on a plate, sat down, and ate in total peace, without interruptions. The intercom buzzed one last time, a short, furious sound, and then fell silent forever. Comment. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a situation that no longer values you. Your self-worth should never be tied to someone else's approval or their performative cruelty. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It can be the strongest boundary you set to protect your peace. Real healing often looks like simple, everyday routines rather than dramatic movie moments. How someone treats you when they think they have the upper hand tells you everything you need to know about their character. You don't need revenge, because life has a way of balancing the scales on its own. Be grateful for painful moments of clarity that save you from years with the wrong person. It's never too late to rebuild your life with dignity and surround yourself with people who genuinely respect you. I hope you choose your peace over anyone else's drama today. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.